As AI continues to reshape the landscape of modern architecture, how are companies balancing the rush to integrate AI with the imperative to manage rising complexities and cybersecurity threats? Well, today I'm joined by Kara Sprague, Chief Product Officer and EVP at F5. And we're going to be delving into these challenges and also explore how F5 is pioneering AI-based distributed cloud services, but not just to enhance, but also secure applications and APIs across diverse IT environments. And by that, I mean from multi-cloud to edge and everything in between. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Seattle, where Kara is waiting to join me today. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
No problem, Neil. My name is Kara Sprague, and I am the Chief Product Officer at F5. F5 is a technology company, and we provide technologies that help customers deliver and secure their applications. So if you are using a mobile phone, like most people, pick any one of those major applications on your mobile phone, and likely between your device and wherever that application is actually being hosted, there's F5 technology sitting between, making sure that application performs, is available, and your data is secure.
And over the last few years, I've had so many people from F5 on. And when I was reading about IDC forecasting a major shift in IT spending towards AI initiatives, I immediately turned to F5. So it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. But I've got to ask, how are you preparing your clients to integrate AI into their existing IT architectures without escalating costs? Because there seems to be a whole lot of anxiousness, nervousness, and so much more going on out there as everyone almost rushes to this AI gold rush of sorts.
Yeah, certainly. And let me just start by talking about what we're seeing in enterprise environments, even without the AI trend happening. Our take on this, and F5 has been in the industry of application delivery and security for 27 years, we believe that enterprise IT operators are in a state of crisis. And I say those words very intentionally. But what they are seeing with the increasing distribution of their applications across these hybrid multi-cloud environments, it used to be, even 10 years ago, organizations were delivering their applications. Those applications were operated and hosted out of an on-premise data center. And 10 years ago, or even 7 years ago, most organizations thought what would happen is, well, I'm just going to migrate those applications out of my on-premise data center and move them into a public cloud. And everything will be better. I'll get more elasticity. I'll get more flexibility and agility from the public cloud. And my operations will be more simple and agile. And the reality that we found ourselves in now in 2024 is you look up and 9 in 10 enterprises now have their applications spread across a combination of their on-prem environments and public cloud. And also about 9 in 10 organizations are using not one public cloud, but they're using multiple public clouds as well as edge environments. And when we look at our stats, an astonishing 38% of large organizations that we survey them every year, 38% have their applications spread across 6 or more different kinds of infrastructure environments. And the implication for that is just an inordinate amount of complexity now that IT operators are having to deal with. And that complexity comes along with it a bunch of cost because they're maintaining a bunch of different operational silos. You might have the team that does the applications on AWS, the team that does the applications on Azure, another team for GCP. Then there's the on-prem team that generally has been underinvested in for many years. And there's also a bunch of costs because there's inefficient cloud application traffic routing, and therefore you're paying a lot of cloud egress costs. And then the final issue with this situation of complexity is the risk that's inherent in it. So again, if you look at what's happened in terms of application architectures, in just the last decade or so, we've also moved from having monolithic applications, and we now have much more microservice-based or container-native applications. And what that means is that the application components are smaller, and again, they're distributed across these different environments. And generally for these modern apps, they're connected by these things called application programming interfaces or APIs. And those APIs are now this vast new threat surface area that largely is not protected very well. And so that's the state of enterprise IT, is they're dealing with a ton of complexity, mounting costs because of these operational silos, and an incredible amount of cyber risk because of this expanding threat surface area. Now, when you start adding AI into the mix, AI is an accelerant for everything I just talked about. With AI, there will be more applications because there's now more business value that can be unlocked through digital efforts. With AI, there are going to be more APIs because AI applications are fundamentally a kind of modern application, and they will be very AI or API driven to connect to the various models and the various backend AI services. And with AI, there's more cyber risk because the cyber actors are going to be even more well-equipped with sophisticated techniques. And even the most unsophisticated cyber actors are going to have a lot more capability at the touch of their hands. And so AI is a massive accelerant to all of these. And we believe that that means that we're at a real inflection point here, and that enterprise organizations are going to have to do something dramatic to wrangle this growing complexity, cost, and risk that they're seeing. So back to your question, Neil, your question and talking about how are clients going to integrate AI into their existing architectures without escalating costs? Well, we see that customers and enterprise clients are going to have to do an architectural change to the way that they have been managing their hybrid and multi-cloud environments, and introducing a purposeful architecture that enables them to have the hybrid and multi-cloud flexibility, but without the amount of complexity, cost, and risk that they are currently facing. And within that new architecture, we can use AI for good and use AI to help them actually have extra arms and legs in terms of managing their applications and understanding what their overall security posture is across these distributed environments. And so that's the work that we are taking on at F5, is really taking what is a very messy hybrid multi-cloud reality for enterprises today, and we're working to make it ridiculously easy for them. And basically doing that by abstracting and providing a mesh that extends across these different IT environments and enables customers to apply consistent application traffic and application security policies, enables them to get visibility to their applications and APIs across these disparate environments, and enables them to apply AI-driven capabilities to gain scale and leverage across it.
Wow. I mean, just listening to you there, thinking about everything you've just said, and also throw in legacy tech, building technical debt over time as well. And at the same time, so many businesses are being challenged to do more with less. It's an exciting and daunting time at the same time, isn't it?
I think it is really exciting. And one of the things that I get really excited about is if you look at the history of enterprise tech over the last 80 years or so, it's always been about the next new thing, the next new architecture. Go from mainframes, go to client server type models, go to and evolve into cloud, now go to containers. And the reality is when you look at an average organization that's been around for any period of time, they have all of these technologies and all of these architectures sitting in their environment because we're never actually able to decommission anything. And what's really interesting and new is we're seeing capability now to marry and bridge across these traditional or more legacy architectures with the modern, and helping customers move forward, recognizing that they're going to have these mixed environments. I think that's a very big paradigm change that we're seeing today.
It really is. And given the rapid evolution of AI technologies and the speed of change, what strategies should any business leader listening or company adopt to efficiently incorporate AI into their networks and simultaneously manage the associated security risks with it? Because again, big talking point right now is a lot of people knowing what they need to do, but being very careful about that.
Well, I mean, much like we've seen over the past decade or so with the evolution of public cloud, even as AI comes along, in fact, it's even more true, no single cloud is going to be perfect for every application or every AI model. And so I expect to see organizations continue to do what they have been doing, which is picking the right environment for their application based on the application needs. And that means even more so today that it's important that these customers think deliberately about how do they build a hybrid multi-cloud architecture that they can scale within their organization. And so when you start thinking about, I need to take advantage of this kind of coding assistant over in this particular cloud, I need access to this other special purpose AI model in this other cloud, I want access to this particular kind of AI capability that's sitting very close to my CRM data in this other SaaS provider. That's why we fundamentally believe at F5 that AI is going to be accelerating this move towards more distributed environments and more hybrid and multi-cloud, and which is why it's even more imperative today that organizations think carefully about what they do to architect their operation around that.
And this feels like a perfect moment to introduce everyone listening to F5's new AI-based distributed cloud services that aim to support and secure AI-based applications across diverse IT environments. So can you discuss some of the unique challenges and solutions involved in securing such a wide array of deployment scenarios there?
Yeah, I'll touch on a couple. So the first one I'll talk about is API security. So I talked earlier about how as applications have been refactored and broken down from monoliths into more microservice-based applications, that is giving rise to vast array of public APIs that are often exposed to the open internet. And those APIs present a new threat surface area, and in fact are the target for most cyber attacks on applications these days. Our research from our own distributed cloud services shows that API targeted attacks are making up 80, sometimes in a month, 90% of the attacks that we're seeing flow through our systems and that we're protecting our customers from. And so API security is incredibly important today. And as we venture into this AI-driven world, API security is going to continue to be even more and more important. And I think it's important for organizations to recognize that API security needs to look different from what we've been doing for the past decades with regard to web application security. APIs have an entirely different set of attack vectors that cyber criminals can exploit. And they require companies to understand and get in front of, even more so, shift left in terms of understanding the code base that developers are working on. What are the APIs that they have in that code base? And so it requires an amount of code testing and code scanning, all the way to inline traffic discovery to understand what APIs are actually getting called and what kind of traffic is going back and forth between them, as well as enforcement to be able to block the bad traffic and the bad calls to those APIs. And they also involve deep understanding of the API schema, right? Because the traffic itself might not look harmful, but it could be exploiting something in the API schema and the actual underlying code logic that actually causes a company to have data breached or enable attackers access to functions that you don't want them to have access to. So the net of it is that API security, more important today than ever. It will be even more important as AI becomes more and more adopted by enterprises. And API security is fundamentally different from the security required for web app security. And so that's a big space and a solution space that we are working on at F5, and an area that we encourage all organizations to be really focusing on and prioritizing, just given the amount of attacks that we're seeing on APIs. So that's one. And then the second area or solution area that I touch on is this challenge of how do you provide capabilities to customers that span deployment scenarios, everything from their on-prem environments where they may or may not need some sort of scale-up hardware-based solution, to their public cloud environments where maybe they want a solution that they own and manage, like a deployable appliance, to a deployment and model of SaaS and managed services. Because F5 is truly unique in that we are the only company that spans all of those deployment scenarios. And so the challenges that we have been working on to overcome in that space is ensuring that customers get a consistent set of capability and experiences for the key functions that they're looking for across those different deployment scenarios. And we've also very much been focused on ensuring that customers have maximum flexibility in their consumption models across them. So at F5, we've remained committed to providing customers a choice of a perpetual licensing model, despite the fact that many other tech vendors have forgone perpetual. We recognize it's still an important model that many of our customers need for certain application situations. We support subscription licensing and term licensing, and we also support consumption type models. And again, the ethos that we have here is we must be able to bridge everything that customers have invested in historically to what we expect them to want to embrace going forward, as well as span across all of these different infrastructure environments that they are now deploying their applications and their data into, as well as accommodate the different business needs and requirements of their applications. And so that's really what we've been working on.
So as organizations increasingly deploy applications across multiple clouds and platforms, etc., how do you at F5 ensure consistent application performance and security in such a fragmented landscape? Because I would imagine that's what keeps a lot of business leaders up at night and frustrates users on occasions too.
Yeah, well, and this is what F5 does, right?
Yeah.
We are fundamentally a provider of hybrid and multi-cloud application security and delivery capabilities. So a lot of companies or a lot of organizations might know us originally as the load balancing company. Back in the late 90s, we grew up basically optimizing the performance for the .com companies in the late 90s during the boom. And we evolved through the 2000s to have a lot more capability outside of load balancing. And so we are also the leader in hardware and software-based web app firewalls. We have capabilities in ingress controllers, capabilities in distributed denial of service protection, anti-bot, API security. Basically, if you think about the key functions that you would want to see in the line of application traffic in the data path, F5 is a leader in providing those functions and providing those functions through a set of solutions or product families where you can consolidate all within a single piece of technology. And so in terms of ensuring consistent application performance and security in this fragmented landscape, for us, what that means is we have solutions and product families that deploy into each one of these application scenarios. We have our Big IP product family, which is for traditional applications across on-prem and public cloud environments. We have Nginx, which is a application security and delivery solution for microservice-based or container-native applications, and that also deploys from on-prem to public cloud to any Kubernetes environment. And we also have a distributed cloud services product family, which is SaaS and managed services. And that also provides application security and delivery solutions for customers in a variety of deployment scenarios. And across those three product families, each of them are fundamentally hybrid and multi-cloud, meaning that customers can get consistent capability, consistent policy, consistent operations, regardless of where they are running those services. And so it really helps customers simplify their IT operations, because it means that they no longer need the Azure security team specifically, or the AWS security team, or the on-prem security team. If you have one security team, one set of policies, one security posture that you're managing across your app environments, it's a dramatic simplification to your operations.
And of course, the transition to AI-enhanced networks also introduces whole new array of complexities and potential vulnerabilities. I'm not sure how much you will be able to share about your secret sauce on how you do this, but how do you address these new cybersecurity threats that accompany AI integration? We hear a lot about the shiny new AI and the great stuff it brings, but not so much about securing it. So how do you address this?
Yeah, and this is very interesting because there's two sides to this, right? Yeah. One side is that there's AI-powered threats, and probably the most widely publicized about them today are the bots, or sometimes called the automation. So like malicious bots, these are the ones that, for example, have prevented customers from being able to get their Taylor Swift tickets. These are the ones that suck up all of the cool sneakers on the day of the launch. And those protecting yourself against those requires very specific capability. It requires that you're able to discern from the way that the traffic comes into your application, whether or not it's being accessed by a human or bot, and whether or not it's a good thing or a bad thing. And that's something that F5 has been doing for years. And we have a highly sophisticated anti-bot solution that actually is based on incredible signal intelligence from the end user devices, or in this case, it's not really a user at that point, it would be an end machine device, so that we are actually able to tell good traffic from bad and human from bot. So that's one piece of technology of protecting against AI-powered threats. Now, the other side of the coin then is, how do you protect AI models and AI services themselves? And that's another very fascinating domain. AI models and AI services also have their own unique set of threat vectors that are increasingly being exploited. So, for example, model poisoning attacks or prompt injection are just to name a few. And there's a set of security technologies that have worked in the past. And so you can protect against some of these threat vectors using some traditional tools and technologies like web app firewalls, like API security. But there's also a number of them that are going to require new capabilities and new technologies. And we are hard at work at F5 developing those new capabilities and technologies so that we can enhance our existing inline offerings with that.
And I think it was Mark Twain that said, history doesn't repeat, but it does rhyme. So reflecting on some of the past trends where IT leaders maybe have struggled with cloud spend and network complexity, are there any lessons that you might have learned that are being applied to prevent similar challenges with AI adoption? Are there any parallels here?
I think there are real parallels, and it goes back to what I shared earlier, which is a lot of companies have sort of stumbled into a hybrid and multi-cloud state. They got there incrementally because maybe they started out saying, we're going to just use this one public cloud provider. And then their developer team came and said, no, this other one is more optimal for this application. We need an exception. But largely by accident, we've ended up with 88% of organizations now deploying applications across hybrid and public cloud environments, and organizations adopting multiple public clouds. So we are here. And I think the big question that these organizations now face is, well, are you going to stumble along equally into the era of AI with a similar approach? And at least F5's perspective and my perspective is that is very suboptimal. And in fact, I used the word crisis earlier. I would even go so far to say that the organizations that do not really take a careful step back and really think purposefully about how do you architect yourself to be a hybrid and multi-cloud organization are going to be the ones that struggle the most in taking advantage of AI.
And I suspect for many business leaders listening, that their applications now residing in numerous environments from the edge to the cloud, it does get very complex. So how do you at F5 use your technology to simplify that management and simplify that security of all those applications for IT teams? Because this seems to be something that you guys excel at.
Yeah, it certainly is. And I'll use one example. We have a capability within what I talked about, our distributed cloud services. So we have a capability in that it plays in the space of network connectivity and app-to-app connectivity. And so effectively, what it means for organizations is that they are able to very seamlessly connect at a network layer the different infrastructure environments that their applications are deployed into. And they are able to connect at an application layer. So layers 4 through 7 in the ISO stack, they're able to connect those applications that reside across and within those infrastructure environments. And so the ways that it simplifies their lives is instead of using a management console for each of these environments, they're able to access and manage these distributed applications from one management console. Instead of having 4 or 5 different variants of a web app firewall policy, they're able to manage one and deploy it very easily to all of their environments so that they can have a consistent posture. It means that they are very easily to manage IP address overlaps, which for any organization that is trying to migrate applications from one environment to another, they know that IP address overlaps is just an incredible amount of toil for these network teams to have to deal with. And the F5 distributed cloud solution basically simplifies that and it gets rid of that toil. And so that's one really specific example of how we're making this much more easy for teams. Another example I'll use is in our franchise, which is the Big IP franchise, which a lot of organizations might know F5 for. Big IP is I talked before, it's our high performance application security and delivery solution, more targeted to traditional applications. And it can be deployed as a hardware appliance or as a virtual appliance. And what we've been doing and investing in heavily in Big IP over the last few years is significantly re-architecting the control plane of it so that it is much, much more simple for organizations to manage the lifecycle around these deployable assets. And to give you a sense of what that means, today, without this re-architected offering, what organizations have to do whenever they want to upgrade or patch one of these things is they have to get a change window arranged from, call it the dozens of application owners that have applications that are using that underlying technology. Those change windows are usually on the order of two hours. And in that change window, they have to fully take down the entire device and basically wipe the entire instance and bring it back up. with our re-architected offering, we are able to actually do those upgrades fully autonomously. And we're also able to do them in a matter of minutes. And that is a huge simplification in the life of a network operator or anybody who's responsible for managing their overall ADC infrastructure. And so I talked about two examples there. One is an example of organizations that are trying to tame their hybrid and multi-cloud complexity. And then the second example is just for a network operator that is looking to remove toil and help with lifecycle management in their own world of ADC. A lot of work we've been focused there.
Wow. And as we look ahead, the pace of technological changes continue to go at breathtaking speed. And I suppose as it continues to evolve, the intersection of AI and network technology and so many things happening there, are there any big challenges or opportunities that you see ahead that you're looking at addressing at F5 or something that just excites you and you're monitoring closely? What are you seeing here?
Well, look, I personally believe that AI is a generational shift. Yeah. It's going to be bigger than cloud. It will be just a tremendous change in the way that all knowledge workers get their work done. And it will dramatically change the IT environments and IT, the way that we deliver capabilities to humans to digitize various parts of their lives. And so we are gearing up at F5 incredibly around AI. We're embedding it across our business. We're embedding it across our products and across our operations because we see this as a tremendous opportunity both for F5 as well as for our customers to really accelerate and improve their digital world.
Well, I absolutely love chatting with you today. But before I let you go, I think one other thing that we've not touched on is there's a real pressure on everyone, all of us, to be in a state of continuous learning to keep up to speed with the pace of technological change. So as somebody right in the heart of all this, where or how do you self-educate? Anything you can share around there?
So I do a few things. So I am an avid person who works out. I work out 5 to 6 days a week, usually for about 45 minutes to an hour. And oftentimes when I'm working out, I will be watching some sort of documentary or other type of educational material to stay on top of world events and stay on top of deeper topics. Another thing is I have a regular set of newsletters that I receive every day that I check. So I get my news through a fairly neutral news source every day, as well as tech blogs. So I read a lot of the Fortune blogs as well as the Morning Brew.
Love it. Great advice. I'll be checking a few of those out. And for everyone listening, just wanting to find out a little bit more information about F5, explore some of the topics we talked about today, or contact you or your team, what's the best starting point for everything?
Yeah. Please visit f5.com. That's our website. You can also follow F5 on Twitter, LinkedIn, or Facebook, or Instagram. And you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Kara Sprague 08 on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, I'll add links to everything just so everyone can find you nice and easily. And we covered so much today. And from the way most organizations deployed and secured their apps used to be relatively simple. It is changing, but I love how you guys at F5 are simplifying that. And I think we could talk about so much of what we mentioned today for another hour at least, but just thank you for simplifying it, putting it in a language everyone can understand. Really appreciate your time today in simplifying this important message. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Appreciate it.
One of the things I loved about my conversation with Kara today is that intricate dance between AI integration and the need for robust security measures, all across a hybrid multi-cloud environment. And as we navigate this journey, it's clear that understanding the architecture and deploying the right strategies are essential for harnessing AI's potential without succumbing to its complexities. There is an alternative. Quick question, straw poll everyone, how prepared do you feel that your organisation is to integrate in AI into your IT systems? Are you ready to face the new cybersecurity challenges that come with it? Please join the discussion, share your experiences as we continue to decode these complexities of AI in the enterprise IT landscape. And you can do that by emailing me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram at Neil C. Hughes. Let me know. But it's quitting time for me. I'll be back bright and early tomorrow morning with another guest. But just a big thank you for listening as always. And until next time, don't be a stranger.